despite, Elon Musk's views on a lot of stuff, I don't know, David Sachs might have been racist as well, might still be racist, we don't know. I still am, I sort of still back any kind of talent that comes out of South Africa, even if they might have leveraged, blood money, blood diamonds, all of those things.
And in October of 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for
$1.5 billion US dollars. Because eBay tried to partner with Visa, thinking that they're going to be a step ahead of.
And it was too late.
PayPal, they said, nah, we're going to give you guys a debit card with cashback.
And by late 2001, PayPal was handling payments for over 70% of eBay's listings. That's what they did. That's how the PayPal Mafia became PayPal Mafia. Not because they kind of founded this tech startup and it did well, no. But because they founded this tech startup and they ended up
reinvesting. Welcome back to Cyber Digest Decoded. And today we've got another interesting series that we're actually going to start. It's a 3-part series that we're going to do. And it's solely focused on the PayPal Mafia.
Hey man,
kind of take us through that, man.
One of the biggest and most infamous gangs of all time.
Yep.
I mean, if we're talking about a gang that really changed culture, the technological landscape, we're talking about the people that founded PayPal. Now, what was PayPal? It was a very early digital payments system. The goal was to kind of create a new world currency, something that was that the government couldn't control, basically.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Bitcoin, actually. So
wink, wink,
wink, wink, hint, hint. Satoshi Nakamoto.
Decentralized payment system.
Yeah,
decentralized
these
currency.
might be the exact same
hey man,
founders.
Listen, bro.
I suspect these might be the same founders. So we'll jump right into it, right? Yeah. In the early 1990s, or rather the late 1990s, it's the time that it was the dot-com boom. And for those of you who might not know what the dot-com boom is, essentially when the internet was more free to people. So the internet started off as something that the American military would use. It was solely confined and limited to them. But this was more of the time when it was becoming more popularized, more, what's the word? When things are like very common for people, for everyday people to
becoming
use.
more prominent or
more commercial
and accessible. Yeah, more commercial.
Commercial was the word I was looking for. Yeah. So that's essentially what the dot-com boom was, right? So amid all of this frenzy, all of this was happening, a young entrepreneur named maxlevchin. He essentially he pitched an idea to someone who would later become his co-founder and colleague, Peter Thiel.
Now, for those of you guys who don't know who maxlevchin is, so he's a Ukrainian-born immigrant, and he was He was a gifted coder and also a businessman. And then, he meets another guy who's also gifted in his way and had some money.
Of course.
So he was an early investor, we'll say, in what would later become PayPal, Peter Thiel. And I know that name does sound familiar because Peter Thiel has become a really iconic figure within the tech world, alongside Musk and so forth. And he later, of course, becomes CEO of PayPal. But yeah, so these guys met, and their goal was to essentially create a new world currency.
Yeah.
They had big ambitions, and they co-founded a startup called Confinity.
Yeah.
That was in 1999. Probably the most goated year of all time. I won't even say why, but I will. That was when I was born, but a lot of things did happen. But
all right, Grandpa.
So Confinity initially was a built security software for handheld devices, basically. But then it pivoted to a money transfer service, and that product would become what we know today as PayPal.
And then knock, knock, knock. A new bombshell has entered the villa. Mr. Elon Musk himself. He essentially started a rival online banking startup, as is his nature and in his character. Something called X.com, and I think we're all very familiar with it.
He was fresh off of that emerald apartheid money. He was fresh off that money.
Trying to see where he can throw his money to. At anything technological.
I'd do the same. If I had some of that old money, I'll do the same.
Absolutely. I mean, this is 1999. He's fresh in the States. And essentially by early 2000s, this company, X.com, from Elon Musk, merged with Confinity. I think they saw that, what we're trying to do, we essentially have the same goals.
Yeah.
And they came together with Confinity, the guys that we just mentioned earlier. And this newly merged company became what we know today as PayPal. Yeah. And essentially these two forces coming together, it forced, there were a lot of power struggles that happened, as would happen in the corporate world, in the tech industry. It's a very competitive, cutthroat industry.
I mean, you're talking about people's interests, investments, and also big egos
and visions that they're trying to make come alive.
You talk about guys of this sort of stature. They all, of course, think that they know what's best for the company.
Exactly.
And they have these very big visions. And in that, there was a lot of internal power struggles, And so Musk early on, when PayPal became, of course, PayPal, he was the then CEO of PayPal. But that did not last long.
Yeah, because in early September of 2000, they essentially had a coup while he was traveling. A hostile takeover. He wasn't even in the room, where they essentially kicked him out as CEO. They ousted him and replaced him with Peter Thiel.
That's crazy. And this has since then become a part of PayPal's law. Musk got ousted while he wasn't in the meeting or in the boardroom. He was actually traveling, which is crazy way to get kicked out of a group chat.
Yeah, can you imagine just finding out on your private jet that you've just been kicked out as a CEO?
That's great. And I know for a fact that's not something you just move on and forget.
Of course not. It's that's a grudge that you hold on today.
And they cool, right? Are they?
I
cool?
actually don't know.
I would never look at the nigga the same again.
But I think what's great is that Elon Musk you could tell that he still believed in the product. Despite him being kicked out as the CEO, he had the largest shares out of everybody else that was involved in the company. And this would later go on to serve him really, really well, because it paid out really, really big when PayPal got sold.
It's interesting when that happened that he didn't just, sell his shares. He continued with the company, and I think it's proof that he saw something.
Of course. And I think that's why he was so passionate about it. Of course, this is why all these boardroom, engagements and fights were happening, because all of them obviously clearly believed in this product, which is why they came together in the first place. Yeah. And when passion arises, of course, people are going to butt heads. Of course, tensions are going to rise. But damn, to be kicked out as a CEO and still hold your shares and knowing that this company is going somewhere speaks very, very well of Elon Musk and his vision in good technological products.
Shout out Muskie. And Thiel became CEO, and under Thiel's leadership, I mean, PayPal exploded. There was such a huge thing, and there were other key players involved like Reid Hoffman and David Sachs. So Reid Hoffman, for you guys that don't know, Reid Hoffman is the co-founder of LinkedIn. That app that we all hate. We love LinkedIn, actually. Great networking tool. Guys, hop on.
Sponsor us.
What?
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us. But yeah, so Reid Hoffman and David Sachs. David Sachs is actually a South African.
Mm-hmm. So now it's two South Africans involved.
Yeah,
two Pretorian boys involved.
Which is crazy,
I'm proud, man. Proud to be from Pretoria. Yeah.
You're black.
Please. Sorry, no, that doesn't matter. Pretoria nonetheless. There's a lot of knowledge.
You trying to rep?
No.
Musk.
This is not a race war. It's 2025.
Being a South African trying to claim Musk in 2025, that's crazy work.
You know what? Despite, Elon Musk's views on a lot of stuff, I don't know, David Sachs might have been racist as well, might still be racist, we don't know. I still am, I sort of still back any kind of talent that comes out of South Africa. Even if they might have leveraged, blood money, blood diamonds, all of those things. At least they were intelligent enough to go and invest in something as big as this multi-billion-dollar companies.
So David Sachs, for some of you guys who don't know, of course, South African born. He actually was an early investor in Facebook, and he also founded Yammer. Yammer is like the social media engagement platform that you'd find on the Microsoft 365 suite. So that is David Sachs, and he also invested in Uber, SpaceX, and Airbnb. So you're talking about somebody who's who knows his business.
He's got an eye for great tech products, and I
Yeah.
love that. I really do appreciate
Which it
that.
seems like they all have that.
Yeah, all of the guys
common, right?
in the PayPal Mafia.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially back to PayPal. It ended up like spreading virally through eBay auctions.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know what eBay is, it was more of like, it was an online platform where a whole lot of transactions were happening. Something like an Amazon,
Yeah.
or like maybe a Take-A-Lot or whatever. But people across the internet were buying products from one another, having storefronts, etc., etc. And essentially, eBay allowed anybody with an email address to be able to send money across the internet, which at this time was not something that was very common. And why this was so innovative, people were so used to sending money to one another through banks and having to consider sending money overseas, like what kind of,
and,
you know what I mean,
having
and
to
checks
cash
and
the
all of that.
Yeah, it was very. I mean, at the time, what for us today, very archaic, but at the time, it was, it was
quite
traditional,
innovative.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, you're saying sending money over.
Yeah,
bank
it
accounts.
was a normal thing, and then here these guys come and they like, no, you can actually do this over the internet. Like what? That's
Yeah, and people were probably
crazy.
very reluctant as well.
Yeah, and I guess it was also kind of the reception that Bitcoin got when it was a thing.
Exactly. When
Like
it was still
how?
brand new. Like
Yeah.
why? Like it doesn't make sense. It's not real money. We're just seeing numbers. Where is this, ledger that exists? We don't know what it is.
Yeah, and so this rapid advancement, it came with a lot of chaos. PayPal was burning through tons of cash
Yep.
to subsidize user growth, and it had become a magnet for fraud. And so they had to prioritize a lot of security measures, and hackers and even international mobsters started to pay PayPal with fake accounts and money laundering schemes.
You're making sure that money is clean, huh? So
And so it kind of became this very attractive thing to kind of do a lot of corrupt things, and which happens. I mean, I think even Bitcoin had its phase where
it had the exact
was being
same thing
exploited.
going on. Yeah.
Yes, and so this, interestingly enough, led to innovation, and that's what happens. When you get problems, they lead to solutions, and a lot of the time, that leads to innovation. Now, maxlevchin, so he was a software engineer at PayPal, and he came up with something called Gosbek-Levchin test.
Which is essentially like a capture test, something that
Yeah.
we know today as a capture
So it was
test.
basically the early version of capture, and so that was to kind of like spot bots and prevent bots and all of that stuff. And that system distinguished real users from bots, basically, and that also gave PayPal an advantage over eBay.
Yes.
Yeah, it gave them a competitive advantage, and and PayPal just continued to take off.
And I think eBay really hated this because, at the time, eBay was its own platform, but people were still using PayPal to make these money transfers from one to another, from buyers to sellers, and they were still using eBay. So essentially, eBay saw this as an opportunity to be able to create their own platform, something that they call BillPoint. And it wasn't very popular. They tried to snuff out PayPal, but it really didn't work. They even tried to change auctioning policies to be able to favor BillPoint, which was eBay's product. And essentially, it didn't really work too well because PayPal counted creatively each time. So it's like that competitor that you keep trying to kill, and they're really 2 steps ahead of you.
It does sound like what's going on right now in the AI race, that kind of tit for tat.
Like we have something to go against what the product that you think is so innovative.
Exactly, and that time it was billed as the PayPal wars.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Which is great. Now it's the AI wars.
Now it's the AI wars.
I think history tends to repeat itself even in the tech world.
And that's the great thing about innovation. It really pushes it pushes companies, it pushes individuals to experiment, to innovate, and then you get these very compelling stories.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly what was happening with PayPal. PayPal, I think, was a diamond in the making. There was a lot of pressure against them. Not only was it because the system that they were using was brand new, but I'd say because the internet was still very new to people. People were
Fresh
still
out the box.
trying to understand what the internet is. It's non-existent.
Can
you
they
can
trust
only find
it,
it. Can it be trusted? Now you're trying to convince people to send money on
It's
those
tough,
platforms
man.
as well.
And by late 2001, PayPal was handling payments for over 70% of eBay's listings,
Which is crazy.
which left BillPoint in the dust.
Because eBay tried to partner with Visa, thinking that they're going to be a step ahead of
And it was too
eBay.
late.
PayPal, they said, nah, we're going to give you guys a debit card with cashback.
Come on, boy.
With cashback. You know what I mean? So they were like always a step ahead. I love that. And like you were saying, by late 2001, they were already handling payments for over 70% of eBay users. And eBay's product was just non-existent, essentially, at that time. So just as PayPal prepared to go public, right, the incumbent giants decided to make peace in October of 2002.
And you know what happened? The craziest thing happened. Like, I don't think anybody foresaw this. I mean, you're talking about PayPal was looking like the leading horse.
Yep.
Right? They were going to emerge as kind of maybe this new, they were going to emerge as this dark, what do they call it? A dark horse? Yeah.
That's a dark horse.
A dark horse who was essentially going to have a say within the future of technology.
Exactly.
And in 2002, in October of 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for
1.5 billion US dollars in 2002.
That's crazy. I didn't even know there was that much money flowing around
for a tech product in 2002.
That's a crazy figure. I mean, how much is 1.5 billion dollars valued at today? Like from 2002, 1.5 billion dollars, like the inflation and all that stuff. Like how much is that in today's current market? That's a crazy figure. How much is that in South African rands?
We can't even look at it in South African rands. There's too many numbers.
How much is it in Naira?
Oh, shame.
Wait, I didn't mean that. My bad.
Quadrillions, maybe?
Why am I doing that, bro?
I don't know. We'll have to calculate. If you guys know, you let us know in the comment section, yeah? Let us know in the comment section what that amount is, because I personally cannot calculate that many bills.
This deal, I mean, it made instant millionaires of the founders and early employees. I mean, we're talking about Thiel's 3.7. Just that 3.7 percent stake alone was worth $55
million.
And at the time, as we're talking about, that's still racks, but at the time you're talking about,
that's literally life-changing money.
Yeah, like you can invest in some serious stuff, like
which they ended
up
doing.
Dollars, and that's what they did. You know, that's how the PayPal Mafia became PayPal Mafia, not because they kind of founded this tech startup and it did well, no, but because they founded this tech startup and they ended up
reinvesting.
Yeah, and venturing into other avenues within the tech world, and also just having a lot of influence within the tech world and forever changing the technological landscape.
And I think that's what this sale of PayPal did. It essentially like created an explosion of talented human beings, all these people that started out in PayPal. All of these talented people essentially scattered across Silicon Valley in different industries and started investing, creating products. Like we mentioned, who was it that invested in LinkedIn? Was it David Sachs?
Yeah.
Investing in all of these products that we know as great today. It all started at PayPal. And I don't know if you guys remember early in the episode, I mentioned that Elon Musk had the largest shareholding within PayPal.
Yeah.
His payout after eBay acquired PayPal was at a shocking $165 million. So you can see just how much, Elon Musk's early investments are paying out today.
And I think that event really helped shape what is Silicon Valley today. I
100%.
mean, that explosion, just the scattering of all of that talent and all of those people who were involved in PayPal, and it really just dispersed them across like different corners of Silicon Valley, and all of those people ended up just doing like really interesting, whether it's investing in Uber, Facebook, founding LinkedIn, Airbnb, or all of these different things that would become like such
innovative products.
Yeah, and and such huge giants within the tech landscape. I mean, and I know it also kind of birthed something within Silicon Valley,
I think so. And what's great, right, is
this
that
culture of entrepreneurship.
Yes, and innovation, driving things that don't exist yet. And I think what's great is that as much as they dispersed across, all these different fields within the tech industry, they still remain quite tight-knitted and friends. And I think this is what allowed for maybe healthy competition, amongst all these different companies. Obviously, it's inspiring if you see something like an Airbnb, what they're doing at Uber, all these different companies. Of course, you're going to be like, that's my former colleague. Let's see how I can leverage off of the knowledge, what I know about him, his vision, and make a better product, a competing product.
And because of that, all of these people became what we know today as the PayPal Mafia. Just to kind of give you guys, a rundown of the members and what they went on to do. Peter Thiel, PayPal founder and former CEO, who was referred to as the Don. Yeah, so he was the Don of PayPal Mafia, and he was the first outside investor in Facebook.
Oh,
which is crazy, right? And then Max Levchin, founder and chief technology officer at PayPal, current CEO of Affirm. Elon Musk, co-founder of Zip2 and founder of X.com, which merged with Confinity to become PayPal. Also founder of SpaceX, OpenAI, Neuralink, and The Boring Company. And he went on to buy controlling shares in Tesla Motors and Twitter, now we know as X. David Osaks, former PayPal COO, and later found Genie.com and Yammer, which is part of Microsoft. Then we also have Roelof Botha. I know South African.
Another South African. I know a South African name when I see it.
So, former PayPal CFO, who later became a partner and venture capital firm of Sequoia Capital. And then we have Steve Chan, former PayPal engineer, who also co-founded YouTube. Reid Hoffman, former executive president who founded LinkedIn and was an early investor in Facebook. I mean,
the list literally goes on.
We're literally talking about the internet age, the digital age that we know
products
today.
Products that we still actively are using today.
Yeah,
these guys all at PayPal founded.
We're talking about people who really shaped, the kind of emerging, the turning point of like the third industrial revolution leading up to the fourth. Like you're talking about these great people,
tech products that
great white men.
Okay, these products that dominated the 2000s, the 2010s, and early 2020s, which is where we are now. These guys basically shaped all of that. So, just as a parting thought before we close off, I'm just wondering sort of who is going to be the next generation of the PayPal Mafia? Are they people that are going to university together, at these Ivy League colleges and universities? Or are they people just staying at home who leverage the internet like YouTube and online courses and just stay locked in at home and learn these products and begin innovating by themselves in silos and maybe begin stepping out and networking with other people who are doing the same thing as them? I sort of wonder where the next PayPal Mafia is going to come from. But
and what does it look like?
What does it look like? Because it can't be the same as these guys.
It can't be, and it's probably going to be something that really leverages AI.
I think so as well. It's kind of crazy, but I think it's going to look very different, not only because, it's a different age, but because these people are, I would like to believe, locked in their rooms, learning, grinding, and then only stepping out into the real world. Whereas these guys from the PayPal Mafia started off as, maybe outside university friends or whatever the case is. But yeah, guys, stay tuned for the series. On the next episode, we're essentially going to start uncovering what things look like after the PayPal Mafia kind of split and was absorbed by eBay between the years of 2003 to 2010.
Basically how these founders, went into different ventures and built different empires. We're going to go in on that. And it's going to, I think, be a very interesting episode.
I think so, because we're going to sort of understand where everybody stood within PayPal and what maybe their true ambitions were outside of, the fintech industry, because you understand the different stuff that they invested in and built.
And that's when we kind of really get to see the different personalities, the different ideologies, and what their true ambition, like you said, what their true ambitions were.
Yes.
And and that's when, of course, Musk, as we know, went on to buy controlling shares in Tesla and basically began this mission of electric vehicles. So man,
I'm very excited for this series. It's quite informative, very interesting, researching all of these products. But yeah, guys, please stay tuned for the next episode of Cyber Digest Decoded.